All right. So my name is Declan Lincoln Ferrari. Mr. West. Bill Gates the 16th, right? And I was born on December 32nd, 1344. All right. So what happens is basically, I'm pretty young. I'm only about 700 years old. I was born on Mars. So what happened was, when I was younger, right? My parents, who had a complicated history. One of my parents was George Washington, and then my mother was my mother was a pretty interesting person. But if you don't know, my mother was actually Pokimane. So what happened was my father George Washington and my mother Pokimane. What happened was we ended up going on a spaceship when I was very young, and then we moved over to Rome, right? And we were living in Rome for a while, but at the time you would have referred to it as Italy. And basically, what happened was later on in life, I kind of did a lot of stuff. I associated with many acts. I created the cure for the Black Plague. I also did a few other things. I helped Christopher Columbus discover America. I ended up doing a few other things in my life too. And one of the most important things I remember doing was assisting during the Boston Tea Party. Thing is that British people aren't actually real. British people come from a place called Ireland. Now, Ireland is actually where humanity started. The first humans lived in Ireland. But the reason why I don't tell you that is because the government will inject you with the COVID vaccine, which has a microchip that'll explode your head. So, see, if you get the COVID vaccine, your microchip will explode you. Like, your body will explode from the microchip, right? And the Earth is actually a donut. Now, the reason why I come to this conclusion is because the donut Earth is possibly the best theory ever. Now, it is true that the Earth is flat in some parts, but you need to understand the Earth is not round. It is actually all just CGI animation. See, what happened was in 2047, when NASA invented Apollo 69, they decided to do something very, very despicable, and I did not like it at all. So what happened was basically, I ended up saying to myself, well, something needs to be done about this. So I went over to NASA headquarters, but they blocked me off. And then they launched the ship up into what was supposed to be space. But really, it wasn't even space. They didn't even launch the ship. In fact, if you didn't know, the Apollo 420 ship that was launched on April 14th, 599 BC, it was actually not even a real ship. The entire ship was just CGI animation displayed on a screen. So you might be wondering, how did this possibly happen? Well, what ended up happening was one of the very most famous painters that was around Austria during the 1920s, named Adolf Hitler. He decided to assist for the U.S. government. And what happened was, in partnership with our founding fathers, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he ended up coming up with a plan to make it look like the U.S. Moon landing when they landed on Planet X was a real thing, right? But in actuality, they actually hired a team of animators to make it actually look like the entire thing was real. But it wasn't. You see, the whole entire thing was actually them drugging the people who saw the event with LSD. Now you might be saying, how does that happen? Well, see, the COVID-47 vaccine that was invented in 3000 by scientist Jeffrey Epstein, what ended up happening was he ended up coming up with a brilliant microchip that once injected, it dispenses LSD at the right moment into the body. So what happened was all of the people that saw the moon landing that happened on Planet X were actually on LSD, because the LSD capsule dispensed into the body. And it made it look like the moon landing was real, but it wasn't. Now back to the American Revolution. So the American Revolution, incited by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, back in 1997 in partnership with one of the more famous acts of American history, Playboy Cardi, ended up starting with a argument that happened between the United States and Brazil. So Brazil said to the United States, "You're going to Brazil." The United States didn't want to go to Brazil. So what happened was they ended up setting up 2 extinction bombs to drop on Brazil. Before that happened, Jesus himself came down from heaven, and he ended up meeting up with another one of our founding fathers who you all know today as Kanye West. But we'll get to that story later. So what happened was the Mexicans had a pretty high KD. They were taking out American troops one by one, and they were successfully managing to end up possibly winning the match before the American troops decided to come in and send extra reinforcements. So, how did this happen? Well, that's where I come in. See, I ended up meeting up, with Mozart, and Mozart, he already knew me on a first and last name basis. And what happened was when I was listening to some of his music in the nightclub one time, what ended up happening was I met up with Mozart and I discussed with him how we were going to win the 1v1 against America versus Germania. So what happened was he ended up telling me that basically the only way to win the 1v1 of America versus Germania is to send out a nuke on them, and we need to send out an orbital flute to airstrike them as well. So what happened was we called on David Bazuski, who was actually helping out during the war, and we told him to provide us with all the core blocks armor that we needed and give us free Robux for a lifetime. So David Bazuski then met up with Notch, and then Notch came and made sure to provide us with diamond swords. Then what happened though was the Decepticons came in with more force, and instead of the typical diamond swords, they ended up getting netherite swords. So we had to go back to square one, and we decided that we had to get the Ender Dragon herself, or himself, I don't know the gender of the Ender Dragon, to come out and kill them all. So we did that, but Hero Brian decided to stop that. So what ended up happening was we got John Doe, and then he made the entire map disappear within an instant. Once John Doe ended up doing this, the American Revolution was won, and it was thrown back into the hands of us Canadians. Americans. You know the thing. So later on, I kind of did some more stuff. And then around, the 2100s, when World War X came around, I decided to do some assistance to many different sides, right? And I gave them all free Reddit gold throughout the entire war. They were all happy. And later on, I decided to resolve the conflict by showing them a 10-hour compilation of a man screaming "Among Us" over and over again. And later on, they decided that the war was just all too sussy to continue. So the war came to a stop, and basically, I still live to this day. And you might know me by many names. You know me by the Diamond Minecart. You'll know me by PewDiePie. You'll know me by... Heck, you'll even know me by Ninja from Fortnite, right? But nothing will change the fact that I am Iron Man.